Welcome to today's session. We are delivering a session today on getting started with AppDynamics. My name is Eugene Breen. I am a former client of AppDynamics, so I completely understand this path of being introduced to AppDynamics and everything that's involved with it for getting your applications up and going. Joining me today are my panelists, Gerard McNeil and Kevin Mawson. And I also have Ken Schoof joining all the way from the USA. Sandeep and Melissa are also joining. During today's session, you are automatically put on mute, I do believe, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. The chat is located on the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like a speech bubble. And the Q&A is behind the three dots, the ellipsis. Once you click on it, you should be able to see Q&A. So please feel free to chat to us at any point during this session. In fact, if you can, click on the chat now and drop in a little hello. Say hello, send over an emoji, send over a smiley face. We're all here today to learn. So again, be interactive. Feel free to drop in as many questions as you can. We do have a lot of experience on today's session to help out with those questions. So let's jump into the first slide. The first slide is showing us an AppDynamics getting started form. I'm going to shift over to my browser and show you what this form looks like. I'm going to copy the link. It's a very straightforward form, and this basically is your avenue to asking us further questions. Anything you submit is going to come straight through to us where we can follow up on it. If we have to align you with your account team, show you how to raise a support ticket, or if you even want to learn more about AppDynamics outside of what we're covering today, you can use this form. Here's the chat, and I am going to drop it in there. We have Sonali. Good morning, Sonali. How are you doing? Okay, right, let's jump on to the next slide. Good start is half the battle won, absolutely. And that's not just in AppDynamics, that's in life itself. That's starting your day. Have a good start, and it definitely makes things easier, right? And it's the same with AppDynamics, getting things started in the right way. I know my introduction to AppDynamics, I didn't start it the right way. I jumped full on in 2 feet into the deep end, and I was kind of working backwards from that point. So a lot of the stuff we're going to cover today is going to show you some of the things that maybe we have to know and understand before applying and adding our applications to AppDynamics. The agenda today, it's light. We're going to be covering this for up to the hour. And also, we're going to leave 10 minutes at the end for questions. Today's session is not going to be death by PowerPoint. We will be spending a lot of time within a demo controller of our choosing to show you working examples within an AppDynamics environment. So AppDynamics definitions and terminology. I am going to cover this one, and then I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Gerard McNeil, who's going to cover the next definition slide on APM. This slide here, right, it's wise to understand some of the definitions because we will be referring to them today in this session. The first one is end user monitoring, and it's referring to almost the highest level within AppDynamics that we can monitor, okay? Think about your mobile phones, think about using your browser side applications. We can monitor that, okay? And we can correlate it with the back end application also to show that full end-to-end. Also within end user monitoring is Internet of Things and synthetics. So think about the time that you are not in work. Where is the analytics? Good question. Synthetics, yes. Think about when you're not in work, okay? If you're overnight, you want to make sure that your application is still up and running. We have synthetics available to ping your application and run through scripts and so forth, user journeys to let us know that everything's working okay before we come in. APM, which is where we're going to spend most of our time today, application performance monitoring. So monitoring the application process and health, okay, down in your backends and so forth, understanding the performance of your application, right? Pulling out the KPIs like average response time, the errors being reported from the application, the load coming out on the application itself. Most of the actions that you might execute on an application usually makes its way down to a database. So it's wise that we have ways that we can monitor the performance of your database. AppDynamics has a couple of ways of doing this. There's monitoring a database as a backend, but also there's the capability of database visibility, which offers us a deep insight into the performance of the database itself, kind of close to what your DBAs would see as well. And then infrastructure, everything that, in your application stacks and in your application world is going to have to sit on some kind of infrastructure. And we have the capability to monitor the performance of that infrastructure. Again, when you're in those troubleshooting areas, you want to have full visibility. You want to, instead of pointing fingers at people and whatnot within a war room scenario, you want to be sure and have a full single pane of view of that application stack. Here is an image. A picture paints 1,000 words. So I was talking about end user monitoring. Take a look at this here. This is obviously your browser side application, your mobile side. You have IoT and synthetics there as well. This is our APM and infrastructure. Database visibility, just look at how everything correlates. This is like, think about your own application stack. This is, it's kind of quite similar across multiple organizations and how things string together, be it in a cloud environment or hybrid environment, bare metal servers, all of that. It's quite similar in how everything links together. Okay, I am going to hand this over to my colleague Jar, who is going to bring us through the APM definitions.
Thanks, Eugene. Welcome everyone to today's session. So this slide is, for me, a building block for your knowledge to understand how AppDynamics approaches the world of observability. And what's important in this slide, we'll talk about the theory. And then when Eugene, in the next couple of slides, goes on to the demo, he will correlate what I explain in this slide to what you'll see on the demo. So this is a very important slide just to gain that theory and gain that understanding on how AppD approaches monitoring and observability. So first of all, you see here on these sections, business application node tier, that's encapsulated in what we call a data model. So that's a 3-layer data model. And what AppD does at the top of that data model has an application. So that application is a group of tiers which provides a specific business function. Now, the application can be any of your internal services or any customer-facing applications. Then underneath that top layer is what we call a tier. An application can be made up of 1 tier, 2 tiers, 3 tiers. And within that tier, that represents a specific function. For example, web UI. So that tier will basically perform the same service or function within that application. And then underneath that tier, you would have 1 or more nodes belonging to each tier. Now, the node is the smallest denominator of that 3-tier data model. So, for example, it can be a single monitored process, such as a JVM or CLR. And that node can be geographically dispersed. So you could have several nodes in one data center located in a certain part of your country, and other nodes in another data center located in a different location, but they all can belong to the same tier as long as they're meeting that specific service, which then falls up to the application tier. So Eugene will show you from the APM point of view in the demo. You'll see the application then you'll see the tier, and then you see the node, which makes up that service. And then what we have is a business transaction. Now, I remember a colleague saying to me, "This is the bread and butter of how AppD approaches observability." Business transaction can be basically any interaction of how your user interacts with that service being provided by yourselves. So, for example, if we have an e-commerce site, we could have search, that'll be a separate BT, or we could have add to cart, or we could have, for example, checkout, that'll be a separate BT. And that really represents how you, as the user, interacts with a specific service. And then within that BT, we monitor the different components which interact or engaged. For example, the application code, the backend database, the message queue, all those different components of your IT estate which are required to meet that BT. So, and within that BT, and again, you'll see this on the demo, we'll classify if it's slow, very slow, stalled, or error. So we don't, in the world of monitoring observability, we don't go a binary approach, i.e., is the service up? Yes. Oh, we're happy. Is the service down? No, we're not happy. We need to investigate. We have a more granularity approach to that via the BTs, and that's to be aware if they're slow, if you're having a poor user experience. For example, if you're trying to log in, so that'll be one separate BT. Is your login taking a long time? So that's the granularity we can have by using BTs. And then finally, you've got the back end. So basically, backends in the AppD world is any component that is not instrumented with an AppD agent, but takes part in that specific business transaction. So again, for example, if you have the BT checkout, so in an e-commerce site, you're checking out, you purchase your goods, and underneath the hood there, that involves several of your components in your IT estate. And for example, that could be a backend database, an Oracle database, SQL, any type of flavor of DB. However, we would still discover that even if we don't have a specific AppD agent instrumented within, for example, that DB, we would still be able to discover your source code, which is instrumented with AppD agent, actually making an exit call to that DB. And again, you'll see that in reality when bringing the theory into practice when Eugene does his demo. Over to you, Eugene.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jared. Appreciate that. Yeah, guys, that was a really, really good breakdown of some of the more important areas that you're going to come across within AppDynamics, particularly when you start your journey. It's going to be important knowing these definitions going forward for a multiple number of reasons. There's, linking in with other users of AppDynamics in your organization and referring to things in this manner. There's raising support tickets. And then, this guy here, business transaction. Once you get these guys right, you're really on a path of success, business transactions. So keep an eye on that one. We do offer other sessions on, foundations of AppDynamics and also on business transactions. This one is quite interesting. Again, getting this guy right is your path to success, right? But we might be a bit away from that, but just highlighting it. Okay, controller demo. Let's have a look at what we have going on within a demo environment, right? This is very high level where I started at here, so I'm going to jump back. Okay, when you access your AppDynamics controller, you're going to be presented on the home screen, right? This is what it might look to you when you first jump onto your controller. It will show you a number of different product capabilities that you will have available to you. We'll also show you a log of places that you recently visited on the controller, application views, dashboard databases, all of that. I refer to these guys as their own little islands, right? And you'll see these up here as well. Applications, it's your applications, user experience. Again, user experience down here. And they're all separate areas in their own right, but they're all correlated as well, which means that when we start diving deep into things, it'll just show you how everything links together. Unified monitoring, if we pop in here, this is another quite interesting kind of dashboard that we see. It gives us a holistic view over all of the other islands that we have, right? Browser apps, mobile apps, applications, all of that. So let's say for today, we want to go into APM, application performance monitoring. That's this guy here. EUM covers these two guys, right? It's labeled as user experience. So let's go into applications. There's two ways in which you might see your application, or maybe three ways, right? There is this guy here, which gives us a connected flow as such of all of the business applications. There's also the tiled view, all right? I prefer this one here. I just like this guy here. I can go to view options and I can add in my business transaction and node health. Lets me know immediately how things are looking, right? I just like things in a table format anyway, but you know, whatever suits you. We're going to go into AD commerce. Jar mentioned on the previous slide that this is a business application, right? So this is where you see your business applications, AD commerce. Let's jump in here. I'm going to click on the dashboard. Usually when you come into your own business application, you will be presented with this dashboard. We call it a flow map. And this basically shows you the performance of the calls across your nodes and tiers for the time that you have selected within the top right hand corner. So this is representing the last 4 hours of throughput on the application. You can select multiple different times depending on how long the application has been onboarded for, right? So let's say I could select the last 15 minutes and you see things will kind of change. I'm going to put it to 2 hours just for now. To link in with what Jar was describing there was tiers and nodes, right? So we see here some of these guys, right? See these circles and it has 6 nodes. If I click on this and I click on nodes, it will show us the nodes from within this tier. These nodes might be all running the same application code. So it makes sense that you group it into its own logical tier. This here might be its own separate application in its own right. But the way it's modeled here is that it's communicating with other applications or other services. And that's what gives us that full end-to-end view, right? It's not just about now monitoring a singular application, a siloed view, and you're cut off from the rest of the world. What you want is to be able to see how applications are communicating with other applications or services communicating with other services. And that's why we model it in that manner, because it correlates it all together. Also within this view, what you see on the right hand side is quite a useful pane. It gives us the events that have occurred for the last period of time. Your health rules, there was a question on a recent session that we ran previously to ask whether we have a proactive monitoring approach, and we do. You are able to define your own health rules in here, right? Based upon the metrics that AppDynamics is capturing. Other things that you'll see in here are other tabs at the top: network dashboard, the events, top business transactions, transaction snapshots. Transaction snapshots is an interesting one. I'm just going to take a quick little dive into here, business transactions, because we narrowed in so much on it in the last slide when we're going through the definitions. We should take a look at it. Just take a look at how these are labeled, right? Now, think about your own application and the key areas within that application, right? Very important areas. Think about your login. Think about, depending on what kind of application it is, right? I'm thinking from a banking application, right? I log in, I get account summary. Maybe I might want to apply for a credit card. Can I confirm my submission, approve submission? You know, all of those key areas, personal details. Even whether a user has checked out of an application, right? Think about your e-commerce based applications. Think about adding to cart, all of that. That's what you set up your business transactions around. If I select this business transaction checkout, take a look at it, right? What Jer mentioned on the previous slide, right, about business transactions, let's go back to it, is it represents a particular service provided by a monitored environment, right? So that's what I was providing here. This is checkout. However, because you modeled it in a manner of business application, tier, and node, it will show the correlation not just for that initial action of checking out, but all of the services required to facilitate that request. It links it all together, right? Shows everything. What we're going to have a look at now, and what we have decided to introduce into this session, is a quick troubleshoot, right? So the example that we're going to build out now is, and this is just showing some of the capabilities of AppDynamics once you have modeled it in the right way. So here's an example. You're in work, you are working in support, or you're in operations, and you get that dreaded call from your boss or a little message coming in now saying, hey, there's a problem. Can you have a look at it? Right? Once the panic kind of disappears, you start thinking, and it's okay. I have a tool here that's monitoring my application 24/7. It has a constant throughput. What am I going to do? Okay, let's go back some time. I don't have a lot of context here. Let me pump it back maybe 6 hours. Okay. Okay, I'll go back 6 hours. Everything here in this flow map will represent the last 6 hours processing time. So if I look at here, the response time is giving me a couple of spikes. Okay. Now, what can I do here? Well, AppDynamics offers you the capability to click and drag. Once you do that, set time range, it will reflect, okay, this time range changes to that time that you're experiencing an error. Then what we can do is go into transaction snapshots. So the business transactions, once you have them modeled right, it will reflect those key areas of your application. The transaction snapshots, AppDynamics, when an anomaly occurs, it will capture more data about that business transaction at that point in time. So we can go into transaction snapshots. It makes sense that we order it by the high execution time. Let's double click on it, see what we're looking at. Not a great business transaction snapshot, that one. I was wanting to get one with a bit more data. So you'd probably go maybe with a full snapshot here, maybe update order. There might be a couple in here that I'm working with. Let me go back here. It's not there, transactions. There. Maybe this guy here, right? Again, I'm in a demo environment, so please excuse my looking for business transactions. This business transaction snapshot view, a flow map, again, shows the power of AppDynamics. It is giving us a red or a yellow in some cases. Where do we look, right? So again, boss has tapped us on the shoulder, said there's a problem. We set back the time. The time offered us a bunch of business transaction snapshots that might have issues. And we're able to drill down into here. By observing a couple of areas, we can quickly identify where the issue is. So on the left-hand side, we can see 9.7 seconds. Yeah, this is probably where the issue is. Here also, if you observe the flow map, you can see there 9.7 seconds is pointing towards here. It's giving me a red. Where will I drill down? This guy's giving me a red too, but this is 9.7 seconds. What do I want to look into? I can view this in database visibility. We mentioned that at the start of the session. We have an option to drill down and see almost database administration metrics, right? AppDynamics can correlate that as well. Oh, I don't have permissions within my environment. Wonderful. We'll have a look at that. There's another separate session on database visibility anyway. But what this shows us here is that by quickly changing just the time frame and by looking at where a spike had occurred, we had quickly got down to the scope. So yeah, that's the power that we're harnessing really within AppDynamics. Okay, cool. One other thing I want to show here, actually a couple of things. Backends, Jared talked about backends. AppDynamics can identify backends, and backends is basically something that is not instrumented by an AppDynamics agent, but AppDynamics knows that what it's capturing and displaying is necessary. It's required within the request. Okay, so this could be, think about your third-party vendor APIs. Okay, take a look at this guy here. Here it's showing us some of the databases, right? Look at this guy here, queues, everything is giving you all that information. And also, AppDynamics in the flow map will show you the other business applications that it is correlated with. So think about that, right? Think about your whole list of business applications. It will show you if there is a request occurring or has been sent to another business application, which is pretty powerful to have. Okay, I'm going to jump into the slides once more. And just to really bed this one in then, guys, because this is important to understand. Again, a node is a single runtime instance. A tier, I'd prefer that to be over here, right, with two nodes, but a tier is a collection of nodes that perform the same or similar function, okay? It gets rolled up into the one tier. And this is our business application, obviously, right? Okay, AppDynamics deployment. We are doing well on time. How are we doing with the questions in there, guys? Are we getting any questions coming in?
We're all good, huge.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, the AppDynamics deployment planning then. Let's have a look at this guy. Okay, these are things to be aware of and things that are involved in your deployment planning, right? When you're getting set up and started on AppDynamics. Obviously, there's your controller, okay? Obviously, this is going to be pretty important. This is your avenue and your access into what we just displayed within the demo environment there, right? So that's important. Your agents, choosing the right agents for your application. There's a number of different options there and separate agents. Think about your database visibility agents, your application agents for different technologies that you have in there, different languages, Java agents, .NET, and so forth. Security. So having to get in touch with your security team when you're trying to get your application access to AppDynamics. We place Java agents within your environment, and those agents then communicate out to the AppDynamics controller. It's not bidirectional communication. It's only one way straight out to the AppDynamics controller. So you will have to get in touch with your security team to get all of that set up. When you do get introduced, and let's say you are managing the introduction of a team, or even if you're just wanting to get access to it itself, something to be aware of is role-based access controls. You will have to be set up on a controller, an account will have to be set up, either a straight line account, setting up an actual account itself, or through SAML or LDAP. Those options are available too. Application views. So think about the start of your introduction to AppDynamics and what kind of view you have and what applications you want to introduce to AppDynamics. Recently, one of my colleagues, he covered a book on one of our internal meetings, and it was all about habits and taking on habits and one habit change. And that's a good habit to get into at AppDynamics. It's not just don't jump in straight at the deep end. Take it one application, two, three, four, five, but no more than that. Don't try and take on the world all at once. Have a view of the applications you want to take on. Monitoring strategy, AppDynamics does have the option for anomaly detection in there. I would probably, if you have introduced a new application to AppDynamics, I'd give it about 2 weeks to a month of monitoring business transactions before switching on anomaly detection just to get things up and running. But that option is available to you also. And have a look at this, right? We were talking about one habit changes, okay, and taking things steady, building it into a plan, know what we have to do over time. If it's your first time, and you've just got your AppDynamics controller or tenant in, these two steps are going to be applicable to you. Okay, these guys, 1 and 2. If you already have an AppDynamics controller within your organization, but you just haven't used it yet, 3 and 4 is going to be applicable, okay? If you are onboarding applications onto the AppDynamics controller, 3 and 4, these guys are going to be applicable. These slides, by the way, these are going to be all packaged up after today's session, exported into a PDF and sent over to you guys. We do have a number of slides that we're not displaying today. They are hidden, but for good reason. There's too much text on it. I don't want to waste all of your valuable time just by reading slides to you, but we do have a lot more information that we're going to send over. But definitely keep this one in your back pocket. Know what to do for your first week, first month. What should you be looking at doing? And beginning deployment workflow. Okay, so try and get access to your portal account at appdynamics.com. In there, if you have an internal administration team of AppDynamics, that's where you will be added to the portal. You will have options to be added to the option to raise support tickets. So that's the actual portal itself. Once you get up and going and you know what application you want to instrument, right? Go through those previous steps that we've provided, those steps to kind of tailor your approach towards things, and be mindful of what you need on that application. So, you're thinking about security, thinking about the right agents that you fit onto your application. Also, what's going to be important and mindful for you is if you already have that AppDynamics champion team within your organization, know who those guys are. Maybe they already have an expansive wiki set up within your organization that has a standards of configuration. I know that we use the standards of configuration when I was a former client, and it was a lifesaver. It was so useful. Also, try and be mindful of your AppDynamics account team or any contacts that you might have with AppDynamics. The form that we sent out, it's in the chat at the start of this session, is your avenue to try and understand if you don't know who your AppDynamics account team is, or if you're siloed on your own island and you have no one to get in touch with. That's what that form is for. So go to that form, have a look at it, and send something over our way. Back on track here, I'll get on to step 3. Log into your controller. I hope some people have had access to their controller during this session, and maybe they can jump on, have a look, see what's involved in getting yourself up and running. In fact, for this step 3, I'm going to shift gears and show you guys just a little view of what that looks like. This is our controller that's available to customer success engineers within AppDynamics. On the top right-hand corner is the gear icon. And we obviously have administration access on this. If you don't, you probably won't see this. But look at administration. Here's your setting up your access, your groups, roles, authentication providers, right? We talked about SAML, LDAP, all of that. So that's why it's important. If you don't know your AppDynamics administration, get to know them. It's going to be your avenue to success. If you're the AppDynamics administrator yourself, we do have other sessions as well on role-based access control. Just get in touch with your account team and we'll be able to steer you in the right direction on that. Step 4, install your application. Know what you want, okay? Have your diagrams ready, your infrastructure diagrams that a lot of people have already as technical documentation. have that mapped out beforehand, saying, okay, I have these databases, I have these servers, this is my browser side application, these are all the things that I want AppDynamics to be monitoring. And that's a really good way of going about it, builds into a strong plan. And then eventually, once you have all of that data and the metrics coming in from your application, then you can start configuring things, start finding your business transactions, then start building up your health rules, build up your proactive monitoring approach. You can even go down the road and integrate it with ITSM options such as ServiceNow, right? ServiceNow is obviously a big one that a lot of people know. There's a really good integration between AppDynamics and ServiceNow. Progress booster, parallel thinking. Okay, so aligning the right people. Again, these steps that is being provided to you today is from previous clients of AppDynamics. Myself and another colleague of mine put a lot of these things together. That was the thinking track, okay, because we have been there. We've had the heartache, the issues with getting up and running, right? Uh, my story again comes from being a former client, and the AppDynamics platform itself was dropped into the place where I was working, but I was contracting, so I was on my own island. And then AppDynamics was just dropped on my desk one day, said, okay, figure it out. And I was siloed. I didn't know who the AppDynamics um, account team was. I didn't know who the AppDynamics champion was in the place that I was working. So I was completely on my own siloed island. And I couldn't find who they were. So things like this, I had to figure it out by myself. But all of that heartache that was discovered has built a pretty decent document of understanding some of the things we should be mindful of. So again, AppD team, right? Know who your admins are, get in touch with the right people, non-prod teams. I'm not going to read through all of this, but this here is a good one. Initiate security and network reviews. Obviously, if AppDynamics is being introduced for the first time, your security team is going to want to know about it. A good way of getting past that or through it is just knowing that AppDynamics communication is just one way from the agent to the controller. These guys then as well submit request tickets. This is leading to internal requests and tickets, firewalls, proxies, routing, all of that, all your access, get it built into standards. Okay. Knowledge resources. We have put together a list of knowledge resources. And again, this is going to be sent over to you later today. Here's everything, and maybe not everything. You might have to get in touch with us on a couple of things, but all of these knowledge resources will help you on your journey towards getting up and running with AppDynamics. So this will be made available to you. Also, depending on what has been purchased, licensed, and whatnot, there is options within education.appdynamics.com. If you get curious or want to learn more about AppDynamics, do take a look in there. A lot of really good things. I've jumped through, obviously, a number of them myself. It's really good, really beneficial. And also lean on your account team if you have any questions on that. The key takeaways for today's session before we break off for any questions that might have dropped in is plan. And the reason why there's 4 people here is plan as part of a team. Don't go your own road on it. Plan as part of a team. Pull in your application SMEs. Pull in the SMEs from the wider parts as well. Your DBAs. Bring in people that specialize in your browser side applications. All of that is going to be important. People from the business, ask people from the business what would be the most important actions you want monitored on this application, right? All of that information is going to be important. Find a way then of measuring success, and that would be, it could be the amount of applications that you've onboarded. It could be the amount of key actions that are being monitored. Okay, think about business transactions. How many business transactions are we monitoring? Are we monitoring the key business transactions? Health rules. Are we proactive? right? How many health rules do we have set up? Where are the health rules going? Are they landing in the with the right people who can fix it, right? Just in case an issue occurs, you want to be as proactive as possible. And then grow. There's a lot of growth within AppDynamics, and there's growth with education and learning, right? A lot more. I didn't know what a business transaction was at all when I started AppDynamics. But growth, right? You get involved and you get a bit deep into AppDynamics, and it's a really interesting experience and path of growth. Seek out education opportunities. Look into various different areas across AppDynamics. We talked about the islands, right? Talked about user experience. APM, database visibility, server visibility. Someone at the start of the call mentioned analytics. Really cool area that we have sessions on as well. Again, use that link that was sent over at the start of the session if there's any particular area of interest that we can focus on with you guys. So with that, I will see if we have any questions in there waiting for us. How are we doing, guys?
Hi, Eugene. Yeah, there was some chat here. I'm talking to Ramesh,
Great.
who's got an on-prem controller and just giving us some feedback around troubleshooting. I've answered his queries around that. We're just having a conversation. You probably see it on the chat.
Awesome.
So, but I've got another question. Where is it? Can I find it here? Yeah, it's around. Maybe you can share your controller why I talk about this, because I think a picture paints 1,000 words.
Aye, definitely.
So it's around business transaction performance, and one of the attendees have asked, what's the categories that business transaction performance are grouped as? And I can answer that, and maybe you can show it then on the controller just to give a bit of context. So to answer the question, it covers the number and percentage of business transaction calls that are classified as either normal, slow, very slow, stalled, or errors. And that's based on configured thresholds for these criteria. So as I mentioned in the slide around APM performance monitoring, we don't approach observability around a binary approach. And this reflects on how we do it via business transactions. And as Eugene has reiterated a couple of times throughout this presentation, it's so important to get your business transactions right, because if you get those right, everything will come off that and your monitoring will be top of the class. So yeah, Eugene sharing it now, the controller where you actually configure the thresholds for those different classifications of BTs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you access it, guys. You go into configuration, and the left-hand side, slow transaction thresholds. And here's these guys here. If you want to have a look at just to see how many metrics a business transaction has, it's pretty cool. I'll go into this guy here and actually
Transaction scorecard there on the right.
oh yes, good one in here. Yes, these guys here. Oh, okay, yes. The scorecard, yeah. So yeah, it'll group it all in there. And because of how those thresholds are defined within configuration, that's what you see within here. Depending on your application and what you're expecting, you can tweak it. And then on the business transaction itself, if any graph actually in AppDynamics that you click on, it'll bring you to the metric browser. So this is the update order business transaction, and take a look at the metrics that are with it, right? Yeah, I have a number of very slow calls, average response time, errors per minute, all of that. So all of these metrics are available per business transaction. So it's a lot of metrics that you can base pretty powerful health rules on and know a lot more about your application. When you go into transaction scorecard, it'll build out its own separate graphs for you, right? Like look at this, shows you the very slow errors over time. You can even push it out over X amount of time, see how it was performing, right? Be a quick way of maybe identifying where there was a problem. This guy here is the average response time. You see here, average response time is kind of spiking, where you can see a lot of errors occurring. And you can see a couple of slows, a couple of very slows in there. Even when you highlight over where the data point is, it'll show you exactly what's going on.
And Eugene, that's a really, really good point, because someone's asked, like, how does AppDynamics learn what is normal for your application that's being monitored? And I think that's a really good question, and sort of feeds into what you're showing here on the controller. That, just to give the audience some awareness, AppD automatically calculates the baseline performance of your monitored application or service. And by establishing that baseline, it can then detect any what we call anomalous conditions for your application. So one application's login time may be, for example, 2 seconds. That over time is the expected behavior of that monitored service to be able to log in within 2 seconds. And that would be a separate BT. And what AppD does, it has the intelligence out of the box to then go, is that BT working normally over the last hour, as Eugene showed, around using time as a metric around, comparing the BT's performance, but maybe on maybe a certain day of the month, that behavior would increase from 2 seconds to log in to 5 because of the amount of traffic on that certain day of the week or month. However, AppD will have the intelligence to know that's expected behavior for that day or that day of the month, and it won't create what we call false positives, mainly around health rules. So it's got that built-in intelligence. And I think that's a really, differentiator of all their observability tools. So I think it's something to call out.
Yeah, no, really good shout. You see here as well, if you're wanting to, if you're new to AppD and you want to understand maybe what type of application you have, because the baseline can link in with whether you're 24/7 throughput of traffic, expected traffic, or maybe you're a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Monthly, you might have batch processing occurring. Really neat way of finding that out. Here's the load, right? Your calls per minute for the overall application. Double click on it and it'll load in here. This is a demo environment, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But you should probably push it out maybe over a month, and it will quickly identify what type of application it is. So for this application, because it's steady throughput, I could say here that it's a daily trend and baseline. But for this guy here, you see weekly trend, right? Weekly trend to be your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So let's say it's busy Monday to Friday, and you would see 2 drops coming down here within the actual graph itself, right? You would see a drop for Saturday, drop for Sunday, and then the traffic jumping back up then Monday to Friday. So do that if you get a bit of time. Make sure that base is selected, right, for your baseline. If not, it's not going to show you. Obviously, when you push it out over that period of time, it's going to jumble it all up, and it's a bit hard to see it. But here's the true reflection of it, right? This is this baseline here. This is the baseline value, and the solid line is the actual throughput. Right. We got another question in there. Does AppDynamics capture snapshots for all slow, very slow, stall, and error transactions? It will recognize if an error has occurred or if a transaction is performed poorly. I don't think it captures a snapshot for each and every one. Let me just verify that here. Here it is, right? So take one snapshot. This is the periodic one, right?
Yeah.
And then collect up to 5 snapshots per minute for 5 minutes, right? For diagnostics. So it doesn't, because a business transaction snapshot is a heavy enough call, right? The amount of data that it carries is not, it wouldn't be good practice to send a snapshot every time, every time, every time. But it would capture if, let's say, the performance was poor, it would mark that business transaction as slow, very slow, stall, and so forth. So you would know whether it is anomalous.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the documentation to Ramesh's question around that. So out of the box, it's by default a transaction snapshot is generated every 10 minutes, as you showed there in the configuration. That's configurable, but I will be conscious of changing that, because if you change it from 10 minutes say to 5, it can create a bit, a heavy load on your controller. I know Ramesh, you have an on-prem controller as well, so that's something to be aware of. However, if the transaction is slow, very slow, or stalled, depending on the baseline for that period of time, a snapshot will be automatically generated as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to find the link to the documentation and put it in for Ramesh too, so he can reference it and read up on it as well.
Thank you.
No problem. We've got 5 minutes left, Huge.
5 minutes left. Okay, what can we show in 5 minutes?
Oh, I think as this is an introduction and trying to understand the concepts and the theories, what I would like maybe to show I think that the logical data model is so important to understand, for today's audience. And you were showing about the application and the tiers and nodes and the flow map. I think maybe for this AD e-commerce application, you can show on the left-hand side the tiers and nodes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good call. Okay, cool. Tiers and nodes. Thank you very much, Jer. Right, so there's a couple of ways that you can view this, right? This is the tier view, and the tier view first will show how it's bundled up, right? So e-commerce services has 6 nodes, and these 6 nodes, these guys are not connected at the moment, probably has to be cleaned up, but it will show that these are the nodes that are rolled up under the e-commerce services. Likewise here, inventory services will have 4 nodes, right? All logically modeled under the one tier. So it's very easy to handle that way. You can also group it out by this here to see the full list in its entirety. But I do enjoy this view here. It just allows me to kind of segment each different tier. Views, you can see here, you can view it by hardware, memory, network. So go to our hardware here. It will let us know actually when you roll it up to the actual tier itself, it averages it across the nodes that you have in here. But individually, this is the information that it gives you, okay? CPU percentage average, memory percent current, and average. So it rolls up into a pretty neat view. You can also, if you want to, double click on each different node. And nothing overwhelming is going on there at the moment. Maybe I'll go into one of the other ones. Here, if I click on the drop down, it'll let me see the other nodes within that tier. So this is the view from the actual node itself. It lets me know what it is interacting with. Here are the tiers that is receiving requests from this actual or that requests are coming from. Again, this is another cool view. Selecting this guy here, our tiers, shows the nodes. If we're wanting to analyze, issues, you see this here, this is letting us know that within this tier that one of the nodes are problematic. You can dive down deeper into another node. And are you jumping in there, Jer?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And we can analyze a bit deeper then. Again, you can see with the nodes as well, here the options above will change. You can see you can jump into memory, JVM, just to see what our options are. So this is from the actual node level itself, right? To see how that's performing. if we have any experts there on understanding heap utilization and whatnot, check this out. There's a lot of really cool options we have here in terms of the graphs that are provided and the metrics surrounding memory pool. So it's not only about the what you can identify from an application performance metrics perspective. Also think about your infrastructure and hardware. You can get down to that level on it too. Then the slow response times, right? It will show you the business transactions that have been occurring or firing from this node and how that has been performing. So really, really interesting stuff. So,
Yeah.
oh, come on.
Now, Eugene, just a time check. That's just on the hour now. So maybe just a quick summary. And we're good.
Yeah.
No more questions. We're all good on the Q&A in the chat. Ramesh, yep, Ramesh has just come back. Thank you so much. So thank you, Ramesh, for your engagement and the questions. They've been really, really good. So Eugene, over to you to finish up.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much, Jordan, Kevin, and all the guys that joined from the AppD side. I would say, guys, just get curious with it. Get curious, explore, get access to a controller if it's non-prod. Do your navigating through that, and just have fun with it and find out who your account teams are, and who your champion is within your own organization. And then, feel free to get in touch. There's loads of sessions that we can run, and we can help you guys move in the right direction. So thanks very much for your engagement today, all the questions, and hopefully it's not too long before we're interfacing with each other again. So take care. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Eugene, just one thing. Do we share the deck and the recording after to those who have attended?
We do, yeah. It'll be a full deck with a bit more text-based slides. We didn't show them today to save people a lot of reading and a lot of yawning. So, and also the recording will be shared.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, folks.
Cheers, folks. Thank you.